Really excited to speak with you and really grateful for your time. And congratulations on the new album release, The Gods We Can Touch, that came out last month.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd like to start by speaking about something that I really resonate with and that I really appreciate about you, and that's your connection to nature, which you speak about quite often. We focus a lot on nature and conservation on our show, and I'd love to hear from you about what inspires you about nature and how it influences your music.
Well, oh no, I'm sitting right by my window now, and it just started snowing, and the snowflakes are falling so slowly down. It's very magical. Well,
nice.
but things like that, for example, are just the slow tempo of the snowflakes and the slow tempo on, and like the nature evolves and moves in its own pace, and it doesn't change for anyone. It just follows its own instinct. I am really I think this world is a very demanding place. I think being a human being sometimes is way too overwhelming and way too much pressure. It's very hard to be a human these days. It's like a super sport. And I think when you allow yourself to spend time in nature and you realize that out there all of these things we care about in our world doesn't really matter. Like, doesn't matter how much money you have or how you look or what clothes you're wearing or the things you regret. Like, things like that doesn't matter out in nature, and you're allowed to simply just exist and sit there, and you're bigger than the small bugs, and you're smaller than the trees and the mountains, and you're perfect just the way you are, sitting there in harmony with everything else. It's a very rare thing to experience, and I just love that nature offers you this incredible gift, and she asks for nothing in return. And I wouldn't, like, no music would exist without the earth. You know, nothing beautiful would ever exist without our planet and without the nature that exists around us. I'm just constantly overwhelmed by its beauty and its dangerousness and complexity. It's just a magical thing right here, all around us, all the time.
I love what you said about nature just is itself and allows us to also just be ourselves, and also to remember that everything we have has come from nature. Even things we've created that are now artificial, they still started in nature, and it's so important to recognize that and to honor that. You know, I find in your writing, you write a lot about things that are bigger than just yourself. It's not just your personal experiences or emotional journey. It's also about other people and encouraging them, and about nature and encouraging us to acknowledge it and protect it. Is that a conscious choice, would you say, to write about things that are bigger?
Well, I've just been more inspired by things that are bigger. And I don't really know. Honestly, I don't know if it's conscious, a choice I've made, or just something that happened. But I know when I look into my own heart, I know that I am often more inspired by what happens around me, and maybe how that makes me feel, and asking questions about things, and speaking up for against injustice, and fighting for the things I love. Like, that inspires me much more than to write about my own personal. Maybe I think it's scary. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. But I feel like whatever you are going through is kind of personal to me, because we exist here together. And the battles you see going on out there in the world, I still find them personal, even though it's not directly towards me. It's still like you're a part of it still. So it's kind of hard to know what's personal and what's not personal. But I have a lot of stories I need to write about before I write my own. I know that for sure.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Speaking of battles, I know for your third album, A Different Kind of Human, Step 2 is the title, which I really love. You've spoken in the past about how you almost see it as a battle cry and encouraging people to feel strong and to be ready for a kind of battle. And I'd love to hear you speak about what you think is worth fighting for. What is that battle that we each face as individuals and also together as this sort of human community?
I feel like it's quite simple. I fight because it just makes sense. It doesn't make sense to not fight. And I feel like it's about more than, it's about something very big we're fighting now. I think it's almost about saving the soul of humankind, to prove what we are. If we were sent here as an experiment that have lasted for hundreds of thousands of years, we have to show to ourselves, to the people before us and after us, to the gods and goddesses, or whoever is watching, that we're worthy of ourselves and each other, of love, and that we didn't just ruin everything. It's just too sad. So it gives me inner peace to know when I die, because I'm not forever. At least nature might be forever, and the sun will still rise in the morning, and the trees will lose their leaves in autumn, and snow will fall in January, and all of these things. That it just gives me inner peace to know that at least these things will just keep on going and keep on being the way they always have been. And I guess fighting for equality, fighting for love, it just makes sense, because it's so pointless to be against something as pure and beautiful as the right to love, or the right to exist or express yourself. It's such a small thing to ask for.
Yeah. I think the point you make about perspective is so important, that nature can offer us a perspective that we're just a small piece of this big, beautiful, living thing. Yeah. And if we can remember that we owe so much to that, and also are part of it, that there's something bigger than us, maybe we won't take our own problems or our own egos so seriously.
I think so too. And imagine how there are so many unhappy people in our current world. And I think it has a lot to do with perspective, and that we have forgotten a lot of things we used to know. And I think it makes our hearts confused.
Yeah. Yeah. And it almost feels like we have a responsibility to remind ourselves and each other of that, to reconnect with nature, to reconnect with each other in very real ways. And technology can be a tool, but we have to make sure that it's authentic, and we're really connecting with each other beyond all of this kind of craziness and this world that encourages us to almost fight against each other, to remember that we have so much more in common.
I know, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's weird, because just imagine that we have existed for hundreds of thousands of years, maybe even over 1 million, I think I read about. And we've been here for so long, and most of the destruction we have inflicted on our planet has happened the last 100 years out of 1 million. It's so scary, and it's so that the more greedy we get, I find it hard to come to terms with and to accept that that our nature is being greedy and being careless. I don't accept that as being the truth. So then you fight to prove that it's not.
Yeah.
And we have currently found only one planet in this whole big endlessness of nothing and everything, in our whole galaxy universe. We have found one planet with life, and we're still managing to ruin it. It's just too sad. I just can't accept it. So it makes sense to fight.
I agree with you so much that we are told that it's just our nature to be destructive, and it's not. I disagree completely. And you make such a good point that we've only been this way for really a very short amount of time. Humans have lived in harmony with the earth for so much longer than the way we've been now.
For so long. So it's weird that we it's a very strange thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like we know deep inside that it's not okay, that it's not natural, the mass production, the way we treat our animals, each other, the way it's just so much that we get apathic, because it's too much to take in, I think. And apathy is the biggest enemy of progress. Because when we stop caring, when it gets too much, and we're already depressed and anxious about our own things that's happening in our lives, and we forget how good it feels to care, and how sexy activism is, and how beautiful it is, and it gives meaning to a life. It gives sense of community, connection. It gives perspective. Like it really makes you happy. It's good for the mind.
Yeah, and for the soul. I think seeing all these challenges as an opportunity to rethink and then rebuild our world can be very exciting if we let it be, instead of distressing and depressing.
Yes.
So what role do you think music and art has in this conversation? You know, what do you hope to contribute in that way, or what inspiration do you get from art and music that does that?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this, actually. A lot in my career, because I've been fighting for the environment and for people to kind of open their eyes to what nature can offer us my whole career. And then through my career, I've seen my voice kind of change, get more angry, get more desperate. I've seen myself become way more like an activist, in addition to a musician, and figuring out like how to make real change. But then I'm very like because I always tell everyone else that it's so important to not be overwhelmed by everything you're not doing. Just try to do something, and maybe next day you do something more. You try your best to live in harmony with yourself, and to do something in your everyday life, to make small changes that can do amazing things for the world if you do these small changes for the rest of your life. And I think that's the true meaning, that we have to not scare each other away from the size of this problem, and to not make each other believe that we have to do everything right, because we don't. We all have things we can change, and we all have things we can't change, and you just do your best, and you try to do at least one thing that's good. You know, sometimes that's good enough. For some people that should be good enough, but I'm just so afraid that we'll be scared away by not being as perfect and as good as an activist as Greta Thunberg. But you don't have to be her. She has her role, and you have yours, and I have mine. And music, I think, plays a huge role, because we talk about the environment way too political. Like it's like with statistics and numbers, and people don't understand these things. They don't emotionally connect to the way politicians talk about the environment, and that bothers me a lot. And music can talk, and art can talk, and movies can talk about it in a way that hits our hearts. And it has to hit the heart first. We have to genuinely care before we find it in ourselves that we want to fight. And so I think that's the biggest job for art, is to hit the heart.
I think that's so true. I think some of the films that we have now in the world, and artists and writers who are inspiring us, are doing so much more than any politician has ever done. It's so much more than policy and, you know, legal questions. It really is. We won't fight for something unless we really are connected to it. I think you make such a good point. And you spoke about something once that I heard, where you said that there's almost a healthy kind of anger that we can find that maybe has been in the world in past generations, but maybe our generation is still finding it, and taking that anger from wanting to protect something we care about and protect the ones we love, and turning it into something constructive is so important. And I'd love to hear you speak about how you've found ways to do that, you know, probably through your music, but also maybe in your life.
Well, I always try to find ways to stir myself up, to stir around and mess my heart and body and soul up, and to never get too comfortable in just accepting that, okay, but that's how things are. I always try to ask questions and wonder, and try to think, but could it be better, and why can't it be better? And you know, I'm a very big I don't like apathy and being numb. So I try my best to make music to do the opposite to you than to make you numb. Because I think we have gotten too comfortable. We have forgotten to like speak up and to be, but we are getting there. Now we are, like the last few years, we've gone much better. But it's like to really shout and scream and ask for change and not just accept the world for what it is, but to actively, understand that we have the power to really make changes and ask for change. And we are the change, and it's a very beautiful, like I have so much hope, I really do, for the future, because I see it in the young people's eyes, not necessarily young by age, but the people young of mind, who I see it in their eyes and their souls. I see it in the that is more like and very obvious thing that obviously if this hurts the planet so much, then we shouldn't do it. Like it's more of an obvious thing now, and you see even like big companies have to show like an environmental plan and have to make changes to be green. And like you see it even in the way people structurally build their businesses now compared to 10 years ago. It's like change is happening even though we don't see it. It's really there, because now no one wants to invest in a company without it having a conscious green plan. And I know it's really change is really happening, and I have so much hope.
Yeah, I love that's really the point of our show, is to tell those stories, because we believe if we see more examples, we build more momentum, and then with time, it just becomes something big, and the world can change very quickly once we all agree to really take the action we can, as you said. So thank you so much, Aurora. I think we're at time, and I want to respect your time, so thank you very much. It was such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Nathan. It was very nice speaking with you too. And good luck. I love this, like the name of your podcast and the whole spirit in it is very beautiful. So thank you for doing what you do as well, and good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you. I wish you the most success, and we appreciate it, and we do it because we love it too. So thank you, and take care and enjoy the snow.
Yes, I will.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Nathan Gardner, host of We Can Remake the World. If you enjoyed today's interview, check out the full episode with even more information and inspiration to inspire you, and ideas of action steps that you can take to make your impact today. Link in the description below. Check out our other episodes with more amazing businesses, nonprofits, artists, and individuals from all around the globe who are all changing the world right now. Link to those also in the description below. And most of all, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it. We are trying to reach as many people around the world as we can with these stories of positive change and hope. Our goal is to build a movement of world changers who are all excited by these new ideas which could totally transform our world for the better. Because let's be real, the world could be a much better place than it is right now. Yeah? Agreed? So let's do it. Let's build that world. Share and join the conversation. You can follow us on Instagram at We Can Remake the World, on Twitter at WCRTW Podcast. Check us out at wecanremaketheworld.com for more tools, resources, more information about all of our guests. Join the conversation there as well. And subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, Deezer, and all the rest of them. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember, true change starts with us. So let's do it. Let's change the world.